Welcome in, everyone. RFK Refugees Podcast. Ted here. John here. We're back. We're with a undefeated. The team is red hot. They have not lost a game since, I don't know, mid-August.
They got hot at the right time. I think that's really what you got to say with this team.
Yes, already eliminated from the playoffs, so it was the perfect time to be like, let's go on a winning streak. Let's give us some unnecessary hope. Jackson Hopkins looks like he's the number 10 or the attacking player of the future.
That we all knew. I think we've known that forever, for years.
Matty Peltola looks like he is absolutely going to be the defensive midfielder angle. Even, let's give props. Rita Zoe here. Why not? Let's bring him all back. We're on a winning streak. Let's bring everybody back.
Boris Eno played left back a little bit in the last game, so got to find a place to put him. Why not there, I suppose?
We need more left back depth, right? We need more left back depth. Yeah, DC United on a winning streak. Before we get into that, John, obviously, of course, you watched the game. I watched the game on Sunday. So I just had a busy Saturday and busy Sunday as well. But how are you doing, man? How was your weekend? I hope it was good.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I got back from San Diego last week and sort of got reacclimated to the world and thought I was getting sick, but I've held it off at Piers for now. But yeah, man, right back into it. Busy week here. Busy week all the time. How about you? You said you were busy. You had another one too.
I had a busy week. I caught a very light, like the lightest version of COVID I think I could have possibly caught last week.
Covish.
But it was like no fever. It pretty much cleared up within like 24 to 48 hours. I was obviously still testing positive. Finally tested negative on Friday, and we were able to throw a birthday / housewarming party at my house. And
not your birthday, right?
What's that? No, not my birthday. My wife's birthday.
I was like, I feel like I would have known that. Hopefully.
Yeah, no, my birthday's in the wonderful weather of January. That's when that is. But yeah, then went out and did 3 soccer games, which was intense, especially coming off COVID. And
right off the back of COVID, that's a move.
Felt like I went and was like, I need to nap for several days after that. But yeah, it was a good weekend. It was a fun weekend. Now we get to talk about a team that kind of looks decent, maybe looks good. I don't know, man.
We do, and I think, but before that, I think we wanted to share a bit of news that has come up. We are going to interview Jason Levine tomorrow.
Yes.
So that's happening. We will be talking to him, and we've yet to sort of decide how it's going to roll out. But I would say if you want to listen to that podcast as soon as possible, I'd recommend joining the Patreon at the $5 and above tier.
Yes.
But we, certainly have a lot of questions. I think, the good thing is that our feelings about him generally and the ownership of the club is not a surprise. This will not be an ambush to him, whatever we say. Mm-hmm. I think we've been pretty forward, and I think the episode like 3 episodes ago was sell the team. So I think, there's truth in advertising here. So it'll be an interesting conversation. Obviously, things are, it's a mixed bag right now for DC United. There was also, I think this is sort of part of, there was a Meet the Team Day season ticket holder event that happened last week. And I always love it. This is at least, I don't think there was any expectation of privacy. So we got some pretty good notes from the Discord about what the conversation that had been taken there. But I think, we'll leave that to where it is. I think we'll sort of have our own take on those questions and see where he's at. But there's lots to ask, lots to answer for. And hopefully we can get a clearly articulated vision of the future, and then it's up to fans how they want to feel about that.
Yeah,
but we're excited. I think this is something we have been asking for probably the duration of the podcast. So happy that it's coming to fruition kind of now.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about the Meet the Team event was who wasn't there. And that was Ali Mackay. So it'll be interesting. That is one question I want to ask Jason.
Yeah, that's going to be probably towards the start of the interview.
Yeah, could have been scheduling, could have been a lot of things, could have been who knows what. But that is something that does need to be addressed. Is Ali Mackay was not there at the Meet the Team event. It was just Jason. Apparently, there were a lot of people basically telling him that he should sell the team. The team is also a lot of the supporters have said there will be no drumming this year. It was painfully obvious. I went, of course, and I feel like this was forever ago, but I have not. I don't think I dropped this. I actually did go. I went to the Club America game the previous weekend to see DC United play Club America, which they won. So he's now like, I think they say 5 unbeaten. I don't know if people are including the Club America game. Maybe count it.
Sure.
I don't know. Sure.
Sure.
But yeah, we sat kind of, to the left of the supporter section. Basically, there were no drums. There was no violence. One guy did say hi, and I apologize. I don't remember your name. But one guy did notice
Typical.
me.
Hollywood Ted over here.
And thanked me for the show. We had a good time. We celebrated the goals, which were all right in front of the goal. My wife did not have the best time. She is originally from Mexico City and a big Club America fan. So
this is what you get when you go up against DC United. You're going to get your heart broken. So she should have known that going in. It's the buzzsaw that is DC United.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, man. So that was a fun night. Obviously, the stadium was there, but yeah, I mean, Ali Mackay not there. The supporters, everybody's upset. Everybody is. I think this feels like a very much a breaking point for the whole team.
Yeah, there's a petition for season ticket holders to not re-sign, not spend money on the team, not buy. If you do go to games, not spend any money on food and drink until. I think it says until the team is sold or disposed of. I don't know. So I think it's very bad. What was typically like the Facebook, Instagram comments of it all have now infiltrated to every organized part. I would say every group but the casuals is in this camp of this is unacceptable. It's gone on way too long. We are at square one. All this happening, of course, during this unbeaten streak. So it wouldn't happen any other way. We wouldn't have just like the complete clarity of purpose of sort of a united fan base, a panicked owner, but then also the team is doing decently. So of course we can't have everything go one way for us at once. But I'm actually I think it's good that the team has shown a little bit of responsiveness and signs of life. Obviously, it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, and we'll talk about the game. But it's I think that aside, everyone's complaints that they have had and we have had and have shared are valid and will be sort of. I hope that we do a good enough job conveying the scope of things. And I know that we won't. I don't know that we don't have 7 hours with them. If we did, we might be able to cover everything. But so we'll do our best. Hopefully, you as fans are not disappointed by at least the questions that are asked.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit. I'm just kind of reading over this. I think I got some little nuggets from this discussion that they had with the supporters group. I think that's the most important thing maybe to talk about. Not everybody might be involved in the Discord, or in the Discord.
All of our listeners are on the Discord. Hi,
yeah,
everybody.
well, we got 200 people. I don't know how many people are on it. The active members of the Discord, I think, are a little bit left. I guess some takeaways I'm kind of getting from, again, these are all just secondhand notes. No one was there. We can have people, if we have people that are who maybe were there, maybe we can get a little more advice, and maybe some people might have some.
We have a
opinions.
listener emailed me before the show, said that he was there, and could talk about the show, but unfortunately we don't have set up for call-ins at this moment. So
yeah,
but yeah, just keep it high level, and then I think we'll get into the deeper tomorrow when we talk to Jason.
Yep, absolutely. But I mean, I think the biggest thing to talk about is, I think it's interesting. A lot has been sort of put on the coaching staff that was here previously. There seemed to be a lot of blame. Apparently, the team pushed for Zaha, but quote, the soccer ops people didn't want him. A lot of sort of trying to wax poetic about the commitment the team has. A lot of the stuff that we've done. I believe the one thing he says, he's not a micromanager, which is interesting. He apparently feels more confident about René than any other coach. Apparently really likes Hopkins and Pirani, which, I mean, so far, yeah, I mean, they seem to be kind of flourishing under him. And then, of course, he talked about the MLS Next Pro sort of partnership / agreement. We'll maybe get into Jason on what this means. I think I would have some pretty pointed questions. For those of you probably maybe who don't remember, I remember very vividly. DC United had a relationship, a sort of partnership back in the USL days before they started Loudoun United with the Richmond Kickers. And so that was a partnership where they would kind of loan down. I'll be curious to see what is the setup for this. Is it a team that is like, we want to get off the ground, but we don't want to commit to we don't want to commit to, say, hiring coaching staff. We don't know anything about soccer. We know how to run business. We're a minor league baseball team. We'd rather the MLS team front all the bills as far as the players and everything like that. I'll be curious to see if it's that. I'll also be curious to see if it is. I'll be curious to see, or if it's just like honestly a relationship they have with Chattanooga FC, which just says we're going to loan players. If it's that, I'll be less disappointed with everything. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this potential MLS Next Pro partnership that's yet to be announced?
I'm keeping my opinions, keeping my powder dry, I think, until tomorrow. I think if it is like Chattanooga, where it's just a place that we could stuff players, we could have done that all along. Nothing really has changed. If it's a partnership with another entity that is either unaffiliated or coming into the picture, but then we're still going to go to Baltimore in 2 years, I don't, or however long, maybe, unless the Baltimore stadium was brought up in the conversation apparently as still ongoing and still the end goal. I think it's probably just taking longer than they would have hoped. But yeah, I mean, mostly what my takeaway before knowing how it's going to go is you could have done anything you're doing right now at the very start of this. And I understand that the Loud United thing complicated things, but that wasn't this year. You've had multiple years to sort of, and the consequences of doing that have been a lack of development in some young players, and then also some, opportunities to sign academy players to some contract that is, somewhat between a first team and an academy level contract or a champ that has missed. So Jacob Murrell to me is the poster boy of should have been an MLS Next Pro team for a while. So we'll see. I think that if I had to bet, when you open your podcast app Tuesday morning and start listening to this, shortly after that, sometime in the daytime, we'll have better clarity on that. My guess.
Yeah. My guess, yeah. I think to your point, we talked about at the very least, having an MLS Next Pro team stops you from being kind of the last dog or the last person to get the offer. You look at Gavin Turner, for instance. Gavin Turner trialed over in Europe. He went all over, and literally it was like nothing came to fruition, nothing came to power, and then he was like, all right, I guess it's either DC United or go to Virginia. And I think I want to be a professional soccer player, so I'll go to DC United. To DC's credit, they did talk about how they said, well, he can't just ride the bench forever. They did find a landing spot for him in Chattanooga. He's done fairly well. I watched him in a couple games. He's given sort of a lot of freedom to kind of be a creative player. I will add the notion there is something to be said for Gavin Turner going to a place like Chattanooga, where their fans there are extremely passionate. It is like a real soccer game / soccer atmosphere. It's not like playing in front of an empty stadium. So there's real pressure. There's a little more pressure to perform. There's crowds that cheer when you score. It's a little more closer to sort of a professional experience. The downside, of course, is you get no say in how many minutes the coach plays, what the coach does. All that's extremely true. But I will say
one assumes. Go ahead. No, I was going to say that's the thing that's required. Yeah. The thing that's required in any sort of agreement is an understanding of what position you find your players in, as opposed to Loudon, where it's like, hey, you can give us players and we'll play them if we want, but that's not what it's all about for us.
We'll see what this move is. I do very much hope it is I'm a owner who wants to start an MLS team. I am, a minor league baseball owner, or I am somebody who wants to own the team, but I'm not somebody who has the ability to know how to run a soccer franchise. Now that DC's done a good job running a soccer franchise over the past 2 years,
expertise.
But they at least know who to build and know who to get out there at the very least. So if it is closer to that type of relationship, I think I'll be intrigued. Very similar. Nashville does this with Huntsville. They have sort of a agreement where it is not owned, I think, by Nashville. It's owned by others, but they sort of run the soccer operations part of it. So if it's that type of an agreement, maybe I'm a little more intrigued by it. So
overall, this is still an issue mostly for the sickos, rather than, and that's our core demo. So that's what we're talking about. But I think there are a million questions. Mostly tomorrow, I think that the questions that I have are mostly focused on the off the field component of ownership and what the team has been. I think that's my real zone of interest. I think the on the field stuff you can ask, and we will. I think that but as far as I just noticed, for instance, the first news article I have seen all year long was posted on the DCUnited.com website about Pirani on September 4th. And that's the first time all year long, other than post-match facts and previews, which are league created, that this team has had any sort of information at all on the website. And that's like a part of the thing I want to talk about.
Yeah, and by the way, the Washington Post actually sent a reporter up to cover DC United. They sent the Washington Capitals beat reporter to cover the game last week against Orlando. So
who is that?
I forgot her name. I just followed her on.
It's not Tarek Al-Bashir. Showing my age.
No. This she's new, and she also apparently covered when she was in Columbus. She covered the Blue Jackets and the Crew. So someone who has experience.
That makes sense. Hockey, soccer is a good combo as far as like number of fans and sort of place in the market.
The crossover is pretty big. I watch the Capitals to the playoffs. And if there's a regular season game, I only have like enough time in my mind now that I'm 30 something. I used to be much like following every single game, and then I realized that I would watch this team get really hyped by how they were playing the regular season and watch them bomb out of the playoffs. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm done like getting excited. I'm just going to.
It's a big investment.
It is a big investment with the amount of games they play. But yeah, curious to see how that kind of develops. I don't know. Maybe they were trying to work something out. Maybe there will be some sort of Washington Post type coverage. We shall see. Some other things sort of on the field, like you talked about, talking about 4 to 6 players. Obviously, they talked about wanting to get a designated player. I think that's something maybe we asked Jason, something I maybe wanted to ask him. It says, we were hearing all these rumors about a designated player. You left that third slot open. We know who you were talking to. I'm sure you can't really talk about it very much, but
it was reported that.
It was reported, but what happened? So, yeah, it certainly does feel like, we'll see. It certainly does feel like Jason recognizes that things are not great. Morale is at the basement. Fans are upset and, starting to call for his head, and he is responding in kind. He seems to talk up a lot about René or René. It's René is how it's pronounced, René Weiler. And so far, he's done a good job. So let's get into the game. I think that's a perfect place to transition to the game. DC United 1-1 draw against Orlando, a game that probably no one thought they could win. I am convinced that René has some sort of like witchcraft on his hands, unlike the previous games where I was like, that was about even. That was either an even game or that was DC United, made the most of their chances, or, there were sort of chances on both sides, even if it was 60-40. This was about 80-20. 80-20 Orlando. I do not know. I watched this game. I do not know how Orlando could not find the back of the net. They had several good opportunities. They got bailed. DC got bailed out when Duncan McGuire, the ball hit his hand. Of course, René playing sort of a low block, trying to sort of teach his team to be organized defensively. Did not make for attractive soccer. This is not a like fun team to watch. This is like 2011, 2012 Ben Olsen type teams that just
back. Benny Ball returns with a German accent.
This is very much Benny Ball. But, I will say Troy Lesesne in his time, tried to make this team more defensive, and it just really felt like he ran out of ideas. And it really felt like if you kind of watch this team, there were just players that as soon as you got on his bad side, or as soon as he's like he didn't want to, Matty Peltola, Jackson Hopkins not getting, near the run out that he's getting now. I'm trying to think of some other players, but Lucas McNaughton maybe being one too. But once you sort of got on his sort of bad side, that was it. You were shoved to the bench. You were not engaged. You were not involved. And René does seem to have a sort of different mindset. Matty Peltola has looked significantly better since his arrival. I don't know if that's something that can convince him to stay back. I don't think he was overall like fantastic in this game, but it's sort of been like the base level of his performance has been much improved over this win streak.
To quote ourselves from the beginning of the year, the floor has risen for Matty Peltola.
Yes, very much so. And then there's Jackson Hopkins, who is turning himself into a silver lining, becoming a player. I am curious. His role is very much to kind of like just kind of be everywhere inside the attack. He's very much like he's going to help out defensively. He's going to push forward. He's very much like running around. He's making himself moments into the entire field. It's been very good. I think the Peltola Cervenia kind of like defensive midfielder sort of pairing has helped kind of solidify and sort of occupy and give him channels and avenues to sort of pass the ball out. And it's been successful. He has completely caught fire as far as the season goes. He's getting goals. He's getting assists. I know that makes you extremely happy.
It does.
That makes you extremely happy. Are you going to get is a Hopkins jersey on the way now? Have you convinced?
Do you want him to break his leg and snap it in half? Because then that's one way to do it. Yeah, no, I think it remains to be seen. I think obviously the run he's on 3 and 4 is unsustainable and not anywhere forecasted of the future. I don't think, but it's a nice turn for him. And we talked, I don't know, about a month ago. It was like, please give us a storyline to care about for the rest of the season, and we said it was the growth of these young players going into next year, and that was, he's giving us that at the very least. Another thing to call out here is Luis Barraza's 10 saves, kind of crazy. Most saves he's ever had in a game as a professional. 83 saves and 22 appearances. It continues to be sort of makes you curious where this team goes next year. I think if he we talked about it, does it make sense to give June a run out? And I think what's going to happen, it seems to me like, Benny Ball 2.0 is occurring, and that would not, it's not being done necessarily to like where we're eliminated. There's nothing to do on that front. So I think, that he is not necessarily like going to open the doors to every tryout, basically. Like Jordan Farr's not going to get minutes here.
Mm-hmm.
Although he did get on the bench for the last game. I think that he's going to play Barraza out every single game the rest of the season to decide if he wants to start him next, to bring him back and start him, or at least have him be in the competition if they provide another. And I think that's fine. I think that he is, probably more so than the Alex Bono way last year, where we said, well, a crap defense makes a good goalie look bad, and the underlying stats were not very, weren't great for Alex. I think Barraza's in a better spot. And I think you're able to see now with this concentration on low block defending, watching Pirani chase like pressure in a mid block, going back on the wings, seeing Peglo do the same thing. Like this team is really, really committing to that. So then you get to see the actual goalkeeper with a team that is coherent in defense. So I don't know. I think that's interesting to watch. I mean, June, I don't know. I think if he's not even going to make the bench the rest of this year, they probably will try to figure out a way to get him back.
Yeah, he is on my list of, if you're bringing in René Weiler, you're wanting him to build the squad, which I think was what. Sorry, everybody, trying to cover a sneeze. But you're going to need some of those international slots. You're going to need some of those U20. I'm going to put it at like a 65% to 70% chance that June will be sold or loaned back to South Korea or loaned back somewhere. Maybe I could be wrong. Maybe he's a player that benefits from, this partnership, maybe going down to the, the MLS Next Pro level and getting some minutes and getting some opportunities. We'll see. But I think at this point, pretty clear to me that he is on his way out. I think you are correct about Luis Barraza. I think it's going to be a situation similar to 2023. I think they bring Luis Barraza back, and then there's another goalkeeper that is coming in that is going to be kind of the challenger to this roster. I think Farr is gone, and I think there is sort of a veteran goalkeeper who can kind of compete for that number one slot, and we'll see what happens. And the real question is, I think we've seen René Weiler be able to coach. I know there's a lot of talk, if you listen to Total Soccer Show, Joseph Larry talks about, how much do coaches really matter. I think what we've seen out of these performances that they do matter in a sense. They can sort of shift the balance. They can come up with new ideas on how to defend. They can put forward ideas. At the end of the day, yes, as far as like, if you look at the grand scheme of things, yeah, I think a good coach makes up about, anywhere from 5 to 6 points in the season. So it's not going to be a make or break your season, but it might be something that elevates your season a little bit. And I think we're seeing that in how the team has sort of risen up. I think it's pretty clear that the effort was not there when Troy Lesesne was there, and Troy Lesesne just didn't have an ability to really motivate anybody, to get everybody going. Once the new manager comes in, then it becomes a little bit of a, hey, I'm playing for my job right now, or I'm playing for next year. I better look good, otherwise things are going to turn pretty bad for me very, very quickly. Any other thoughts of the game? We could talk about the Lucas McNaughton red card.
I think let's talk about that. You had a, you had a,
Obviously,
you had an evolution of thought on that, I think.
yes, and I think there is. So obviously, if you watch the game, and I didn't realize, like, I think I looked at the stats and I was like, they scored a goal and then they got a red card. I'm like, man, that was like just like an unfortunate series of events there. And and then I watched it and I was like, oh no, there was a VAR review on the goal that resulted in a red card. And I was admittedly exhausted from coming back from games, and I was like, I don't think I've ever seen like a VAR review go on a goal and then a red card given. Like, shouldn't you bring it back? Of course, that's not the case. You can absolutely, if someone commits a serious foul play or someone commits any type of offense that is card worthy and the referee plays advantage, they can absolutely go back and card the player. Red card, yellow card, doesn't matter. Absolutely fine, 100%. 100% appropriate. So the red card was appropriate. That was absolutely just for Lucas, I'm just like, just let him score, man. Because I mean, at this point, you want to get himself sent off. I thought he was one of the players that had kind of a poor game. I think he's one of the players that's going to be, bye, thanks, but we're done here. Lost his mark a couple of times. There's some clear opportunities and clear shots, including the goal. Both he and Bartlett, I thought, had a rough game, and I'm not sure Bartlett's had some good games when he's been paired with Rawls. I think this team, if you're looking at some of the 4 to 5 to 6 players that coming in next year, like TAM level center back is a big one, like an actual like TAM level type player, big, $500,000, $600,000, $7,000 salary type player, not, we pay a transfer fee and $300,000 type player. That's the one area of improvement that you would be looking for in this team, because it's just clear, like, they were losing marks. They basically, I think there were just the shots that were coming in the middle. When the team sort of was able to have a structure and shape in the defensive area, they were sort of able to rely on players like Cervenia and Peltola to kind of clean things up and sort of prevent that. But when sort of things got on the run and the entire, from a counterattack, or the entire defense was kind of checking back, and the structure maybe wasn't there, there were huge gaps in the center, in the 18, that Orlando was able to exploit, and really should have buried one of them, at least one more of them, to make it a 2-1 game. I have to think this is, do you agree with my assessment? This is the end for Lucas McNaughton after this? I would be curious to see whether he makes it out on the field in the starting position again.
Probably not. And I think it's also the end for him with the club, because this is an Ali Mackay player and he's on a 1 year, and I don't think that Ali is here next year. So I think yes.
You think Ali's going to be let go?
I do.
So you think René Weiler, who has no concept of the MLS roster rules, is it going to be a René Weiler and Dave Casper type show for
something like that?
Talking bleak, man. You're just like,
that's my thought, and I don't even really feel necessarily negative about that. I think that Dave Casper being involved, of course I am, but I mean somebody to help, cross the I's and dot the T's with the league nonsense stuff. I think that René has talked a lot about new players, and there's lots of conversation in those notes that we didn't get into that says how much that those assurances were given. So, yeah, I think Ali is in a hot seat situation right now. I think that if Jason blames a lot of the situation of this season on Troy, who hired Troy, and there's some varied thoughts on that out in the media, but nothing confirmed. And then Ali sort of disappearing from the spotlight here over the time. I think if you're saying some bad decisions were made, my assumption is he is including Ali in those bad decisions. That's my guess.
I'm very curious to see because we're going to ask the question, what is Ali Mackay's status? That answer might not tell us anything, but I think
he's under contract. That's what he'll say.
Probably, but I think the nature of that and how maybe full-throated he is in sort of his defensive alley, I think that would, if there was one thing that would kind of, even if you're going to say, René Weiler is kind of running the show, you need somebody in here who can, make trades, who understands the value of certain contracts and how to get sort of moves done in this league. I don't think you can kind of turn it over to René. And maybe he's well versed in it. Maybe he plays Football Manager in his spare time.
I don't even necessarily think that
on the rules, but
I don't even think necessarily that René does a double duty. I think that all of a sudden it appears that Jason has found Jesus on experience, being important rather than young and creative ideas, and experience trumps somebody coming from a good place without time in the chair. So I think if there's a GM that's unemployed that has recently been doing the thing, that's what I think comes in. Not Dave, but maybe somebody else.
Yeah. I think
my off-season predictions are starting now here in September 15th.
I think Ali quote unquote survives this. I think he's back next year. I think his role will be stunted. He's not going to get the full sort of maybe breadth of direction of where this club goes that maybe he had under Troy.
Which seems not a good idea for your GM. Just be like, just shut up and make trades.
But what I will say is that, a lot of the people he's brought in are his guys, and there's a lot of the academy director, Kevin Flanagan, he brought in. The head of data analytics, he brought in. A lot of sort of people around him that were brought in. I think his role with the first team and maybe like the big sort of signings, he might not, he might get, if René says, I want this player and I think this player is best, and Ali Mackay disagrees with that, I think René's winning that bet. And I think
Rabel
we saw
Morrison 2.0.
Which again, giving René is a guy who has coached, has had success. I'd trust him a little bit more than Wayne Rooney as far as like making decisions on certain players and stuff like that. It doesn't mean you can't sign some players that'll be bad, but
certainly. I think too, the biggest thing to think about when you think about René, this has borne out to me true every single time. It's with players, it's with managers, it's with everybody. If you look at someone's Wikipedia page and they have never been in a place for more than 2.5 years as a player or as a coach, and they keep moving and they keep moving, there is a reason for that, and you are not going to be the person that breaks that streak. You're not going to be the one that changes him. That is always the thing. You look at a player like a journeyman that comes here and puts together a good year, and you're like, this is it. Like this is going to play out the rest of his career here. It never, ever, ever happens that way. So there is a reason why a pattern develops. So whatever, I think it would be not wise in the long term for him, for everything to be thrown out in the bathwater and everything be put in this René basket, because I don't think he will be here by the next presidential election, per se, like something like that. Like, I don't, if we have, pending, or even the midterms, who knows? But I think that is the thing that scares me. It never changes. There's never a coach like Jose Mourinho is not going to go somewhere else next and be there for 10 years. It's just not going to happen. This is going to be the way it goes.
Yeah, we'll see. I think the first things first. First things first. The job in front of you is to rebuild this team and make it palatable.
We got some questions. You want to run through those?
Yeah, let's go through the questions. I think we've discussed kind of the game. I think that's all we really can get out of the game. Slide Tackle 84 on our Discord says, does Miami take us seriously this week, i.e. play Messi? I think Suarez got red carded. Suarez is suspended. There's another player that got suspended as well. I think from the last game there was another player suspended.
I think if he's available and healthy, they will take us seriously because they lost on the road in a pretty dramatic way this week. So they've got to start winning.
We'll see. They do have a midweek game against Seattle,
which they're really going to care about.
They want to.
It's at home though, so they don't have to travel at all for these. So
they do not have to travel. I think there's a good chance. I think if they drop that game against Seattle, I think they will say we need to go in here and we need to really put the stamp on DC United and we can't take them lightly like we took them last week. So that'll be my thought on that. I think he'll play. Thoughts on Farr getting a front row seat over June against Orlando? Farr selected as backup. I think we kind of talked about it. I don't know. I think you read into that what you will. I think that if you wanted evidence that June might be on his way out, I think that would be the biggest piece of evidence for that.
Farr seems like a great third keeper that you keep. He's affordable. I think he's on a multi-year deal even, I'm pretty sure. I think that was required to get him out of Tampa Bay. I'm pretty sure. He's got vibes. He can save penalties. Like, what else? He's good at doing social media. What else could you ask for a third string goalkeeper?
I was trying to find his contract. He is a 2-year deal through 2026 with an option. So yeah, he'll probably be back.
He'll be here.
That third keeper. Hey, are you hungry? Says, how should we interpret undefeated in 4 games? 5 games. Let's say under Wheeler.
That's right.
Do we really look better? Because we also went 4 games undefeated at the beginning of the season under Troy. Better. It's better in that we're winning and that we're in games and it's not like we're getting blown out. I don't think this is like the future. If this team is playing like this next year, something's gone horribly wrong.
I mean, yeah, it's better. I think it's undoubtedly better. Like we were getting beat by 4 and 5 goals for a time before, and the players haven't changed. So the only thing that's changed is the coach, and all of a sudden we're not getting blown out. And these are not the basement dwelling teams that were doing that to us earlier in the year. So I think it's very heartening. To your point, no cohesive and sort of like building attack is in play, but that is down. I think that's what comes out in the post game pressers. Is like, yeah, the players aren't here. Like I'm doing what I can do. You don't have the players to do the thing. And Benteke is. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry, you were saying about Benteke.
I was going to say, as you said that he looked really great against America. I think he looked pretty. I think he was kind of a non-factor completely in MLS play, and in this current like super defensive setup that we're in.
Yeah, it's. I think Christian Benteke. He is my one player who I think will be back next year, just because the pressure to build in, and I think it's been said a lot that his game, even though he didn't have a great game this week, he's played well over this winning streak, including the game against America. Which, I mean, clearly he came onto the field and it was just obvious DC was able to move better in the attack. He got attacks going. He won the ball. The DC was able to sort of get on the end of some of those long balls over the top. It just looked better. I think he's back next year. I think the idea of trying to sign 3 different designated players or the winner is going to be certainly a bridge too far. And I think they will extend that option with the idea that he's going to be a bridge for the team heading into, and the next season you make that, particularly since you did not grab that DP that you needed over the summer window. Itsu says, how bad are things for Lucas McNaughton? Gets the start, but then involved in a goal conceded and is sent off. He seemed fairly distraught, even walking up to the ref and reviewing the VAR footage at the sideline/end. Something very unadvisable. Yeah, I think he might know that he was kind of that might have been it for him, and he might have had his chance and his opportunity, and quote unquote he blew it. So I do not think he's a player. He's a player who I think was only signed for this year with an option. So I don't think we'll see that option happen. And then also says, I'll start a comment. Barraza struggles to get rebounds away from dangerous positions. 2 hours for someone getting peppered by shots all game. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, sure. I don't think Barraza is the keeper who's going to lead us to the glory days. I think what we've seen is, you can get a solid backup, but you look at the keepers out there, you either go get like an MLS legend veteran, like a Nick Raimondo, and I'm going way back on that, or
Casey Keller.
You go out and get like a big time player. You go out and get a Matt Turner, somebody who is extremely good, and that's who you kind of rely on. I don't know. Maybe we see some of the sort of fringe national team goalkeepers come up. I don't know. Maybe Jonathan Klinsmann comes onto the team or something like that. That would
helicopters in with his dad.
That would be wild. But I think Barraza, again, I think he'll be in the roster. I think the goal will be, though, by the end of the year, that you have a solidified starter above him. And that's maybe he develops and continues to grow and starts playing, and they like, you know what, he's solid, let's do that. But I think there will be somebody at the very least competing for that number 1 spot with him.
I think we've got enough holes in the boat that we should patch all those, and then we could probably make a do with him. We could make it to the playoffs with him. I think that's my diagnosis.
But question for you. So the team, it's been talked about how the team wanted to let Troy go and did not get René on board until after the team was basically already eliminated from the playoffs. If the team had made the move sooner, brought René in, let's say late June, right before the transfer window opens, do you think, and let's assume nothing changes. Let's assume they couldn't get, whatever deals they were looking at, they couldn't get it together. Same roster as experience. Number one, do you think the team, I'm not going to say whether the team, I still think they probably missed the playoffs, but do you think the team would at least make it interesting? Would they not have been eliminated in, let's say, August?
I'd have to go back and look at who we were playing in that time frame. But I don't know. I think you can't play like we're playing for an extended period of time. I feel like it's like playing heads. It's like flipping a coin. Like it can only come up heads so many times in a row. And right now it is, because it's happening solely as a function of just like attack prevention. Although in this game, this was down to lack of finishing and some good luck. Like it wasn't like we were preventing chances. They had plenty. So I don't know. I think could they have made it interesting? Possibly. But I feel like this is not a long-term sustainable strategy with the roster that we've got. I think we need reinforcements.
No, and I think, you talk about playing sort of 50-50 soccer. That's what Ben Olsen played. And you come up heads 3 times, you can, that's not an anomaly, and you can go on like a little winning streak, and you can push, and if things are tight enough, you can sort of lift up. But that's very much like the type of soccer Ben Olsen played. It was very much like 50-50 type soccer. It was choking games, suffocating games, finding moments to get goals. And I think that there's a chance you play 50-50 soccer and you come up heads twice and tails 3 times and then heads again. I think they would have made. I think ultimately we talk about this as a winning streak, and if it weren't for the game against New York, we'd still talk about how René still has not won his first league game, actual game with DC United. So it's a unbeaten streak, and then purely because they have that one win on the road. A lot of these games have been 1-1 draws. Again, against much better opponents. So I'm not going to fault the team considering how bad things are. It's they at least make it interesting. They've taken the lead in some of these games. They've kind of surprised some teams in that regard. But yeah, I think they would have made. I don't think they would be eliminated at this point. I think they would have been eliminated late September. I think is when, if René had been brought in earlier, I think there would have been some better performances, and I think they would have still found themselves eliminated, but it would not have been as terrible. All right, I think we got some Discord questions, or sorry, not Discord. Some Blue Sky questions. I did not have up. Let me get it up. Do as I open up Blue Sky. Brendan Carr would say, "Who's your DC United name a guy?" I'll go with Brandon Markledge.
That would also be mine, because I saw him in a Giant in Kingstown one time, bagging his own groceries. That would also be my guy. If I had to pick another one, there's too many choices. Somebody mentioned that they were on a business call and Stephen King was on it. It just as like happened to be on the call working for the company he was working with. So that's another good one.
Yeah, I mean, I go with you can go with AJ Wood. That would be somebody. That would be somebody who would be the name. A name I would.
Brennan also said, "Is it fair to say that undefeated René Weiler is better than every coach in United history, with the possible exception of Bruce Arena?"
How dare you? I think that leaves out a lot of coaches who have had some very.
Is he better than Thomas Rongen?
Well, Rongen won a cup, so I mean, yes, that was with
a pretty damn stacked roster.
Yeah, pretty much the same roster. Pretty much the same roster that, pretty much the roster that the team won. I was trying to remember. I ran into a former DC United player who was at like the Richmond Kickers, like honoring of. He was on the 1995 Open Cup team, and I'm so bad. I've been sick, so I'm going to use that excuse. Also, I haven't really felt well. But I'm trying to remember. He's a player who played for DC United and was part of the Cups. Definitely a role player type player, but he would be one. He would be one I would look to name. I'm trying.
Stephen Deroux, another name that I'm just going to throw out there.
Roy Guyan Capene.
Guy Roland Capene. I interviewed Guy Roland Capene for my blog a million years ago. He used to be called Baby Drogba. That was his nickname for a little while.
Yeah. The name that was fun.
Anjan Sulu. Man, you don't want to get me started. Let's end this podcast.
Was it Sasir Alam? Who's the Indonesian?
Sasir Alam, yes, sir, the Indonesian Messi. Nicholas from the chat says there was a DC United player who arrived from the School of Mines. His name was Craig Thompson.
Yeah,
a draft pick. All right, let's stop. And conserve our DC United energy for the interview tomorrow. We don't have any more questions. I think that was it. That was Brendan.
That was it.
But so again, wrapping up. we're gonna talk to the owner of DC United tomorrow.
And Steve Kaplan will also be there.
I believe
got
so.
The email. Yeah, I got the
confirmed.
email.
Okay, so yes, both
Steve
owners
Kaplan
will be there. And if you want to hear it as quickly as possible, join us on Patreon, and then we'll figure out when the rest of you freeloaders can listen to it.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you guys next week. Vamos.
Vamos.
Or later this week.